Inspired by poetry.
Let's give it some lip.
Ta-da.
Oh, wonderful. It's great to be back with you, TB.
I am excited. I feel very inspired today.
Yes, I can imagine. We are talking about resilience.
Yeah.
What comes to mind when you think about the word resilience?
So, at this point in our history, like no other point in our history, I think we need some, right?
Right.
I think we really need some. And for me, it's to be, I think of resilience as I think is more restorative, you know. How do we get back to that place, that Zen place that we need to be? So there's a very restorative, soul-searching portion of it that when we think about it, I think we think of it too lightly.
Yeah.
It's like, how do we get back, but to a better place?
But to a better place.
But to a better place.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, when you think about the pressures of the world and your place in it and figuring out, how you stand firm,
Yeah.
I guess, with all the bombardment of messages.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to take resilience because you've got to have some conviction. And so the pieces that we're going to look at today, I think, bubble over with these ideas.
And I agree. And I will say that we've chosen two poems today that I read constantly.
Same.
They're my grounding factor. They're the thing that if I'm having something a little bit off, I'm just not sure about myself, I go back to this to remind me.
And isn't that what poetry does?
It is.
Poetry is it's a grounding mechanism, isn't it?
It is.
It's a reminder when the voices of this world become so cacophonous that we can stop and go, hang on, what is real? What is true?
Yeah.
How am I positioned within all of this?
And there's a sense of humility when I read. There's a sense of humility. I see myself in every line, and it's a humbling experience. And how I transition throughout the page and down the page and up the page, however I choose to read it, there is something that is soul-searching, but at the same time very humbling.
That's right.
You know.
And we've talked about poetry as this restorative aspect, something that can continually come in, and that, as you mentioned, you read this poem over and over again, and it never fails, does it, to hit that spot that it needs to hit.
Yeah.
And every poem hits differently.
It does. And it grounds, right? It's like, it's a grounding thing, and for me it serves as a constant reminder, right?
That's right.
That what a poet tries to do is to some degree show you're not that unique, right?
That's true.
Because I've thought about it.
Well, that's what literature does.
Yeah.
It reminds us that we are all in this collective whole.
Yeah.
Yet you are not alone.
You're not alone.
Yeah.
And so at the same time, it's reminding us that, this is maybe a more common experience than you've thought about.
I'm not as unique as
No,
I
you're
thought.
not as unique as you are. Don't be so precious. But at the same time, words of wisdom.
Yeah, and there is something comforting in knowing that others have struggled through something similar and they've come out the
Absolutely.
other side. And I think sometimes we get stuck in the struggle and we don't realize there's a path out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I can say, the dangers of our progression and our development in society is that we tend to forget what it is that we really want, and we get off course.
Yeah,
right?
sometimes it's almost as though it seems I don't
Lose
know
our
how
way?
to say
We've lost
it.
our way.
Or that we revel in the problem.
Yeah.
But we don't necessarily seek solution.
No. But I think that's part of that. There's a bit of research that talks about the poverty mindset and how difficult it is when you're poor. And when I think poor, it's a mental poverty that I'm talking about.
Yes, I understand.
The mental poverty of, we can't get beyond this place because we can't see that
What's
far
beyond?
ahead.
Yeah.
Right. We can't see beyond that.
But poets do.
They do.
Poets look
They do.
into the
They
next.
do. They do.
Yeah.
It never ends in that trap, right?
That's
It's a
right.
way of getting you beyond that.
Excellent.
And to think about that. And in every poem, and when I read this, there's a line that is just embedded in my brain that over and over and over again, and I'm going to share that with you, that's my go-to.
Yep.
That is the line that I go to give me solace, to give me strength, and it helps me to develop the resilience I need to navigate today.
Perfect.
Okay.
Well, let's go ahead and hear the poem Invictus.
So
by William Henley? Is that
by
right?
William Henley. Yeah. So many people would have been introduced to this poem through the movie Invictus, but Nelson Mandela's story. And I think if it can work for him, it can work for any of us. So here goes. Out of the night that covers me, black as a pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I do not wince, nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeoning of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet in the menace of the years find and still shall find me unafraid. It matters not how strait the gate, nor how charged with punishment the scroll. I am the master of my faith. I am the captain of my soul.
Strong language choices in that poem.
Absolutely. And it ends with, I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. It is given back control.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's resilience, right?
Right, yeah.
The resilience is the ability to take back control.
Take back that agency.
Take back the agency. Take it back.
Realize your role in that moving forward.
Yeah. You can either give it to someone else.
Yeah.
And that could be the circumstance, right?
I heard a saying, I think might be Carl Sagan, don't penalize me for that, but said time is the coin of life.
Yeah.
Be careful lest you let others spend it for you.
I love that.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that.
Yeah. And that's what you kind of get at the end.
At the end of
kind of
this,
taking
right.
over and like, no, I'm in charge.
I'm in charge. So we can get caught up in everything that's around us, but unless we can control for ourselves that which matters the most, I think there is no ability to go beyond that. There's no ability to develop that resilience. And at the end of the day, that is my coin, right? That's a currency.
That's
for
right.
me.
There's your currency.
There's my currency.
We always think of currency only in that monetary value, but we don't understand that your currency is so much more complex, so much more rich, honestly, than the materialistic idea of currency.
And my currency is my soul, right? It's the non-bargaining part.
There you go.
And I know the value of it.
That's great.
So I cannot be compromised by it. And it's where my ethics, my consciousness sits, my conscience sits. It's all within that.
And I think that is key, knowing where your value lies.
Yeah.
The next poem we're going to read in a little bit is about that as well. So we're going to do another Maya Angelou poem because, hello, why not? And we're looking at the recognition of the speaker's value.
Yeah.
And this, whether or not you see it, whether or not you understand it, I own it.
Yeah.
And that's what we see in Invictus as well.
I do. I have to tell you that in every point in my life in which there has been a circumstance that I have struggled to come to terms with, how do I take control? This is my go-to.
And is it the last two lines?
The last two lines.
That stick out? Yeah.
It's the last two lines, and the sadness. I think of this, and there's a religious context that I have to put this in. I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul, and the context for me in terms of spirituality is that you can believe in something, but they've gifted you something, and that's what you have to use to take control.
That's right.
Right? And so on a spiritual front, I always think, I thank whatever God may be. Instead of saying, blame for everything, I thank it because I know that I can get through this because I've been gifted everything I need to get through it.
Yeah, and that's an interesting juxtaposition almost that we see in the beginning, that thank God's, because only through that can I be master of my fate. And usually in spirituality or religion, the control of that is given to the spiritual being.
The spiritual being,
But at the same time, by giving that control, it empowers you. It's weird. It's a very paradoxical thing.
It is paradoxical, but I think life is paradoxical,
exactly.
right? Because in the spirituality of this, it reminds me that there's a common saying that I use all the time, and it is that every experience in life is one that I must have. It is for me to figure out why, right? So it's never about why me. Every experience I have,
it's about how will this change.
Correct. It is intended for me. It's my job to figure out why and how I'm going to use this shape and ground me. So for me, that's the essence of resilience, right? The ability to navigate that paradox and come out at the other side.
To take the focus off of that, you're right, that why me, like the negative side of this is happening to me instead of this is happening for me.
Yeah.
How can I rise?
Yeah. What's the intention?
I love the line there too, my head is bloody, but unbowed.
Yeah. I will not bow down.
And that's, again, that kind of bombardment of the world.
Yeah.
And yet you can stand with your head held high because you have those convictions.
Yeah.
Maybe you have that religious faith, right? You have something that grounds you.
Yeah. And another line that, so it's a stanza more that I like. Beyond this place of wrath and tears, I know where I am. Looms but the horror of the shade.
Yeah.
Yet the menace of the years, so even with time, finds and shall find me unafraid. Means I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to take it on because I know that it's just par for course. It's part of the journey that I must take. But ultimately, the resilience comes through my understanding of how I use that currency to control my own fate, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that temporality, understanding that this is a brief moment.
Yeah.
You know. And
it'll pass.
It'll pass.
It'll pass. And I think as we navigate our current fate in society, the way we live our lives, I think we're maybe bowing down too much to some of these things. And if we can find strength, humility, compassion, and empathy in these words, right? I think that we become yet a better place. We become a better society.
Agreed.
So I encourage anyone who hasn't read this to read it and make sense of it in the context of their own lives.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
And thinking of Invictus and moving over to Maya Angelou's Still I Rise, we can definitely see a similar vein that's happening here through a kind of rhetorical questions. And so I'll go ahead and read Still I Rise by Maya Angelou.
Thank you.
You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still, I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries. Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, 'cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain I rise. I'm a black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear I rise. Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise.
My soul has gone to a better place. I have to tell you.
Oh, it's a masterpiece, really, when you think about the rhythm of it all and how she's able to control pace with the questions and kind of those stanzas that are just, oh, does this upset you? Does this offend you? And then how, when she gets You may shoot, you may cut, you may kill. So she uses that anaphora to speed that moment up. And then again at the end, out of the huts, up from the past, I am the, right?
Yeah.
You can just hear that kind of swelling of agency come into it, like that ownership that's taking place.
Yeah.
She's just fantastic.
She is. And for those of you who are not history buffs, right? She's also teaching. It's a teaching moment as well. It questions, but it teaches.
Exactly.
Because she's talking about a history of African Americans, right? Where it came from. And yet, we cannot be downtrodden by those things.
Right.
We have to rise above it, right?
Yeah.
And she doesn't say it until the very last line, right?
That's right. Intimates.
Like you can figure it out. But I think it's a good way for people to see that in spite of the history of it,
that's right.
resilience is necessary for us to get somewhere else.
That's right.
Right?
And maybe it's this idea that, trauma is trauma.
Yeah.
Like, and it's traumatic.
Yeah.
Thus the name. But the trauma that you experience at the same time, you can't stay in it. Or else it just continues to re-traumatize you.
It's not useful.
No.
It's not useful.
And I know that's difficult.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, just, get over it. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm also, I know from my own experience that you can't just, continually contemplate that negativity and think that somehow, I just have to somehow figure it out. I just have to somehow make sense of it. You know what? Some trauma you can't make sense of. And so the more you stay in it, the harder it is to see that light on the other side.
And it's who you become. I often think that we all experience trauma, and there is no gradient for.
No, there's no gradient.
There's no gradient for it, right?
Right.
Because each person experiences it differently. But for me to not be owned by that trauma, I've got to go through my stage of grief and get to the other side.
That's right.
And that's what she's doing here, right? She's getting us to the other side. And along the way, she's picking up pieces. She's adding value to that history in some of the questions that she asks. And this is, a line that I really, really love. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Right? So, what is it? What is it that upsets you?
and these questions are so poignant because it's I'm not going to take ownership for what has been done to me.
Yeah.
You're the actors in this.
Yeah.
I'm going to own who I am.
Yes.
And I'm going to show that that's not something to be afraid of.
No.
It's not something to be condemned. It's not something to be denigrated. It's something to be celebrated.
Yeah.
I rise.
Yeah. And she revalues. So if you look at the precious metals, the references to gold mines,
oil,
the
gold,
diamonds, all of those things, she's going into, this is what as a society we value. So let me own some of that stuff. Like, let me show you. Let me give you why we are as important or we have as much currency in it.
There we go. We go back to currency.
That's right. And she's done that quite crafty.
Yeah.
Right?
Really has.
And I think that is resilience. Yeah. Resilience is to curate the currency for those who don't quite see it, right? Create the currency for those who don't quite see it, yes. I love words, can you tell?
Yes, it's good.
Yeah, but still I rise, and it's a very simple thing. Still I rise. And it's the positive, the affirmative. Right. It's not, you let me down or I'm trodden. It's something aspirational. Still I rise.
That's right.
My resilience comes from my ability to rise above it.
That's right.
But I love that.
Again, not allowing the power of anybody who has put you down to continue to keep you down.
Yeah. And this is like an anthem, right?
It is. And both of these are very much...
It's a music to them,
That's right.
but it's like an anthem. It's absolutely like an anthem. And here are two different... So what I love about these two poems is that they come from two different periods in our history,
That's right.
written through the perspectives of two different people.
Yep.
And yet their experiences come together to say that these things happen to all of us, right?
That's right.
We're not as unique, and we know that trauma is it's one of the consequences of our society and our development.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's a sad thing.
It is a sad thing, and it's not easy.
And it's not easy, but let me, in your moment of grief, give you something that gives you hope.
And when you are in these downtrodden places, turn to poetry.
Turn to poetry.
You know, because you find that shared existence, you find that shared trauma in some ways, but at the same time you find the shared recovery.
Yeah. I think these should be books on tape, and they should be in your car as you're driving. Just words to remind you, these are the affirmations. So I use, poetry for me are affirmations that I use to ensure that I'm grounded, and it keeps me in a place of, this is my reality.
Yeah. That's right.
This is my reality. My reality is that I can rise above it.
Yeah. And these have been very obviously influential in our own writings, I would imagine. And I think I mentioned this before, but if not, a lot of my poetry comes after I've gone out and taken some photographs.
Okay.
So I go and I take photographs. I do some bushwalks sometimes, coastal drives, all kinds of things. And I had a bushwalk not too long ago where I just took one of the path, and I didn't even think about what I was taking. I was just like, oh, this is the path I'm on, and we continued with the walk. But when I got back, the sun was coming just kind of laced through the trees to where it created a bit of a haze, and the path up ahead looked blocked because of, it almost looked like there was overgrowth on it, and you couldn't see around the corner.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I had a poem.
Yeah.
And it's a short poem, but it goes like this. When you can't see around the corner, when your path ahead looks blocked, when your vision all but leaves you, when your resolve falters and grows soft, there you will find me waiting, there you will find your strength. There in the stillness between your heartbeats, this whispered truth remains. I am, you are, and together we thrive.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was just one, and it happened so quickly once I saw that photo. And just using that kind of anaphoric stanzas with the everyone beginning with when at the first stanza and everyone beginning with there in the second one.
And to know that you're not alone, right? So you end it with there we are together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so resilience is not built just by self, isn't it?
No.
The things around you are there, and they're there to help you, and they're resources.
That's
Do
right.
we even know that they exist? And that just came as a walk in nature.
That's right.
Where you find your strength.
Yeah. And I usually walk with others, so I mean, I never,
You're not alone.
and I'm not alone in that way. But I mean, and I think if we all think back to moments where we were struggling, it's the people that came around us, that really helped us find our footing again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you to do your poem again because I really, really love it. I really, really love it.
Let's do it again.
This is going to be the third one that sits in my head, taking tenancy to get me through these times.
All right.
Okay.
When you can't see around the corner, when your path ahead looks blocked, when your vision all but leaves you, when your resolve falters and grows soft, there you will find me waiting, there you will find your strength. There in the stillness between your heartbeats, this whispered truth remains. I am, you are, and together we thrive.
Love it, love it, love it. And where I am taken with that is hope.
Exactly.
Where I'm taken with that. So the connection I have is resilience is built on this platform of hope, right?
Exactly. It's layered, you know. You can't have resilience without the possibility of the light beyond.
No.
And that light beyond is hope. Hope that the human condition that we are in right now can't get better.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we want, isn't it?
Yeah, I do.
A more harmonious society where we lead with love and kindness.
Yeah. And we can work together to do that. And I think in all three, we're taking periods in human history, or we're taking the way we live with nature, and we're building resilience through all of those. And they're not mechanized.
No.
They're not mechanized.
Yeah, and in fact, the gold mines is the only thing oil wells and gold mines
Yeah.
would be the only thing that were kind of industrious.
Yeah.
But that was a reclaiming of
Correct.
those. Yeah.
And remind you that I've got them too, right?
And
So
revaluing in currency.
since you understand that, let me tell you I have that too, right? Kind of thing. It's like, if that's how you see it,
if that's what
I'm
you
going to
think
show
is,
you
yeah.
this is what it means to me.
If that's what you think is the most valuable, I've got those right
I've got
here.
those too. I've got those too. And yeah, so what I hope that especially this episode does for everyone is a sense of restoration, right?
Yeah.
I've been reflecting lately about just the path we were on. The things around me can make you very sad because you see the trauma blow out, right? It just
And
seems
some of the
to
consequence
just-
of trauma.
Yeah. And if we don't get people back thinking about the resilience we need to build within ourselves and as a part of a larger group or a part of our society, where to from here?
That's
Right? So I'm going to encourage everyone, if not with the poems that we've shared with you today, to find it. They
Find that
exist. Find them.
Find that poem that
Find
for
them.
you gives you that spark of joy, that spark of hope, that spark
Yeah.
of resilience.
Or write it.
Oh, write it, yes!
What the
Oh.
world needs is more poets.
That's right, and hopefully that's what this podcast is doing. That, yes, we're talking
Yeah.
about poems, but maybe it's providing a spark
Yeah.
for those who are listening to be writing as well.
And I will never forget my first conversation with you where we talked about creative intelligence, and I thought, it's not just thinking that I need people to do.
Yeah.
It really is about this connection to creative intelligence.
Yeah, there's something different that comes out
Yeah.
philosophically, psychologically,
Yeah.
emotionally when you actually put your ideas into a form.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I feel restored. I feel
Yay.
a bit more resilient than I did before, and
Excellent.
I'm again humbled to be here. So
great.
it's been great.
Excellent. I hope that's the same for our audience. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.